Welcome everyone to the June 2024 Charter Chat. Next slide, please. So before we begin, I just wanted to give a caveat. The information that you're going to hear from us is provided to you as a reference. Before you act on any of the information, we strongly recommend that you consult with your own legal counsel. Next slide, please. So today's agenda, before I actually get to today's agenda, I just want to remind you of some Zoom etiquette. If you are not muted, please, look at your screen right now to see if you are muted. And if you're not, please put yourself on mute. You may ask questions by adding them to the chat, and there hopefully will be time at the end for a Q&A, but you will definitely have time during your breakout room to ask questions. The session, as you likely heard at the beginning, is being recorded and will be posted on the CDE website. The breakout rooms, however, will not be recorded. And so on to today's agenda. We're going to remind you of what's in the parking lot. We will review some questions that came up at the May Charter Chat. We will provide a legislative update as well as some updates on the Advisory Council for Charter Schools and the State Board of Education. And finally, share some hot topics on LCAP. The annual report template update, I think that's by CCAP, and then talk about some fiscal planning for next year, and we'll also go into breakout rooms. All right, I want to turn it over to Tom for some, actually, before I go there, I want to do some introductions. So as you may know, CASI is a collaboration among the California Department of Education, the California Charter Authorizing Professionals, and the Santa Clara County Office of Education. On this slide, you have the team members from SCCOE. Today joining us are Michelle Johnson and Matt Doherty. Our other two members, our fiscal team actually is on vacation. And here you see the three people who typically represent CCAP at these meetings, and that would be Tom Hutton, the executive director, Dave Patterson, the board president, and I'm not sure if Debbie Deal is here, but I don't think she is.
Not today. Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, so I do want to turn it over to Tom to provide some important information.
Yeah, hi everybody, and I see some faces that we've seen very recently here, but I also, some of them were, I believe, first-timers at the conference, and I believe are first-timers today. So when we do get to the breakouts, we usually say maybe skip making introductions all around because you'll eat up all the time. These have been growing, but do take a moment to say hello to the first-timers that are joining us today, which is terrific. We had a great gathering in Irvine. We kicked off, as we always do, with the CASI pre-conference on Charters 101, which was nicely attended, and quite a few first-timers there, which was always great for us to see as we try to expand the reach of CASI to more and more authorizers, particularly the smallest ones who are busy multitaskers, to try to make their lives a little easier. The conference overall, I thought was really great. Thanks to a lot of people on this call who also were presenting for us and engaged participants. I will say we had a little moment on the last day where we just gave a shout out and kind of congratulations to kind of all of us about how CASI has kicked off in the first couple of years. Thanks to all of you participating in charter chats like this and otherwise engaging. As you may have heard at the conference or in previous charter chats, we are coming to the end of the current grant September 3rd, but thanks to Allison and her team at CDE, they have submitted their 900-page proposal for the next grant to the feds, and we've all got our fingers crossed on that. But we expect the CASI effort to continue, and we were glad to celebrate it a little bit in Irvine.
Okay. Next slide, please. All right, so we bring this slide to you every month, just as a reminder of some of the questions that have been asked that we don't have current answers for. We want to make sure that you know that we have not forgotten your questions, that we hear you, and that the questions have been provided to the appropriate divisions at the department, and we are working on answers. We are going to be addressing one of the issues on this list, and that is DOS schools, and that will be during our quarterly regional training, which is coming up. And we'll have more details on the date and time for you a little bit later. Next slide, please. Dave.
A little bit later is right now. I'll start with that. We are having a regional dash schools. That's our quarterly training, July 9th. So if you're not already at the beach or doing something else, it's afternoon from 1 to 3. It's virtual again. And Waco, Riverside County, Santa Clara County Office of Ed, and CDE are the main presenters. The registration is open. Please do that there. If somebody could throw that link into the chat, that would be great. We also are continuing our work with our charter chats, even in July. So we've got one scheduled for July 29th. And then I just need to remind people that Cassie is taking Authorizing 101 and Fiscal 101 on the road. So we are available via Zoom or in person. So if you've got a place and a group of people that can benefit from the training, we can go there. We can try to make that all work. Next slide, please. Next person. Oh, no, it's actually me. Two of us. Oh, two in a row. Okay. Then we do have some responses for you about the previous workshop charter chat questions. The first one is about workplace violence. And when is the plans due? July 1, right around the corner. The aggregate data enrollment from CDE, what does it look like? Well, we've got a link there, because it's easier just to send you to the link and you can see how the data will be made available to you. If a charter is up for renewal in 24-25 school year and is applied for DASH status at the same time, what criteria for renewal should be used? And although the application for DASH is submitted in 24-25, and the determination may be made in 24-25, the DASH status would not be applied until 25-26. Therefore, the renewal criteria established for high, middle, and low performance categories would apply. And last question we have a response to is county authorized charters on renewal. Can the charter go back to the original denying school district free authorization? No. Pursuant to the Ed Code sections 47-605 and 607, charter renewals are be submitted to the chartering authority, the county in this case. Should the chartering authority deny the renewal, the charter may then pursue its appeal rights. So those are some of the updates for the questions you've asked in the past.
Next slide, please. All right, so here is where we take a moment to prepare ourselves to go into breakout rooms. Our hosts at CDE will, they always organize the rooms, and in order for them to easily get us to where we need to be, we ask that you rename yourselves. And I know that the Cassie team has not done this, or at least I haven't. Everyone else did. Rename yourself so that we see your name and the name of your organization. If you haven't done so, rename yourself so that your name and the name of your organization is showing, and our CDE hosts can get us quickly to where we need to be. All right, next slide, please.
All right, so every time we bring you a legislative update, so our list is actually now 2 slides long, but there are some of the bills have fallen off of our 2-slide lists. Next slide, please. So all of the bills that are currently on this list are the ones that are still in the committee process. Any bills which were previously tracked and are not on the list did not make it out of either the Assembly or the Senate, and they are now considered as inactive bills. So we will continue to keep you up to date. Things are still moving. Next slide, please. So the Advisory Commission on Charter Schools, their meeting was held on June 4th, and the agenda included non-classroom based funding determinations. Their next meeting will be August 6th, and the next state board meeting will be held on July 10th and 11th. Next slide, please.
Okay, so we're going to move into hot topics now. And first up is Matt. with some information on local indicators and LCAP, et cetera.
Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so just a reminder that the California Department of Education opened the reporting window for the California School Dashboard Coordinators to report their local education agencies' local indicators to the dashboard. That window opened on June 3rd. These are the local indicators that will be reported on the 2024 dashboard. The charters must also report the date that the 2024 local indicator results were reported to the local governing board on or before July 1st, at the same meeting in which the LCAP was adopted. Again, that reporting window is open from June 3rd through July 31st. And just a caution to pass along to your charters that if they do not submit their results within that reporting window, the performance rating of standard not met or standard not met for 2 or more years will appear on the LEA's 2024 dashboard. So if you send out any sort of notices to your charters or reminders, that's an important one that I've seen some smaller charters overlook because they don't have a big network office to help them on track. So something to keep in mind. In terms of LCAP review, LCAPs are to be updated annually and approved by their board and submitted to their authorizer, that's us, and to the county office by June 30th each year. So that's just 4 days away. The 2024-25 LCAP is the beginning of a new 3-year cycle of goals, actions, services, and expenditures to support positive student outcomes that address state and local priorities. LEAs must complete the 2023-24 annual update to conclude the previous 3-year cycle, as well as completing their 2024-25 LCAP package. Some authorizers review the LCAP to determine that 1, the correct template was used, and 2, that all the components of the document are present in current order. Some authorizers also use the California County Superintendent's LCAP review form to provide feedback to the charter schools, as charter school LCAPs are approved by their governing boards, not by us. Maricopa Unified School District recommends a particular set of LCAP review checklist tools modified from templates provided by Kern County COE. Both the California County Superintendents and the Maricopa Unified documents will be linked on the resource page. Summer planning, just to kind of mark the time. While the rest of the education community might be excited about summer vacation, it's actually a pretty hectic time for those of us in administration. So now's the time to, map out your calendars, update your websites, update all the forms you use to reflect current situations, perform your LCAP reviews, etc. And finally, annual report updating of the annual report template. It is considered best practice for authorizers to use an annual report template. If the authorizer uses a template, it's recommended that it's updated to reflect the new laws that have come into effect. Additional resources in the CCAP annual report toolkit will be linked on the resource page. Next slide, please.
So as our fiscal team is out today, you get to have me do the fiscal oversight. So as you heard on the program side, LCAP is also here on the fiscal side. The LCAP process, so while the LCAP has been known as a program compliance item, it is the document that should be closely connected to the budget. The LCAP goals should drive the budget, not the other way around. Make sure your program and fiscal teams are communicating with each other when they are reviewing both documents. While reviewing, keep in mind that the budget overview for parents should match the charter school's adopted budget, that all the components of the LCAP are submitted and posted, and this includes the budget overview for parents, the 23-24 LCAP template, the action tables, and the LCAP instructions, and all the required elements and the 24-27 LCAP goals. And all the required elements have been addressed, including, if applicable, the 15% concentration grant add-on, which is used to increase the number of credentialed and/or classified staff who provide direct services to pupils. So the budget process, just like districts, charter schools must complete and approve their annual budget. Per Education Code 47604.33, charter schools are required to submit their board-approved annual budget by July 1st each year. Fiscal planning for next year, similar to the program team, the fiscal team currently should be preparing for the upcoming fiscal year oversight responsibilities. So we've added in the resource document, the 24-25 Santa Clara County Charter Schools Department calendar that has sample fiscal documents that SCCOE collects as part of our fiscal oversight responsibilities. And when in doubt, you can also use Education Code 47604.3, which says that authorizers are allowed to make reasonable requests of charter schools that they need to comply with. And that means not just program, but fiscal as well. Next slide.
Okay, so before we go into breakout rooms, we just went through quite a bit of information pretty quickly. I did not see any questions in the chat, but if you have questions, and one just popped up from Christine. I have a charter that just informed me they are not able to have a quorum, so they are not able to approve their LCAP budget until July. Is there some type of notification I need to send to them when they miss the deadline? Anybody want to tackle that one?
I'll just real straightforward. It's not like this is a new deadline and new date. I certainly would be communicating with them. It's a major document to do, and I would be encouraging them to get it into them as soon as possible. And it would be, just it's not the world doesn't end. But it would be something that they should certainly work to avoid in the future.
Agreed.
Do you know if there's going to be any fiscal penalty for them to not having it get submitted on time? Because I don't know what other leverage to get them to understand they need to figure this out.
I would strongly recommend that it be done more formally, depending on the nature of the charter. If this is their first year, then I understand the delay. But if they've had multiple years, as Dave suggested, then probably a written notice to cure, so that it gets documented and everything else can then be done on time, or at least you have a paper trail.
Great
Thanks,
suggestion.
And I'm not aware of any fiscal impact per se.
Christine, I also had a board meeting last night with a very well-oiled school with a great board. 2 board members ran into situations that kept them 2.5 hours late to the board meeting. They were able to make it on time and still have a quorum, but I think there's obviously circumstances that do arise with people that are donating their time to the school. So I think at that same token, it should be a discussion should probably be had as to why or what the situation was, to just understand on the human level of what happened to miss this quorum.
Thank you.
And they still have time to, I don't know if someone's on vacation and they won't be back before July, but they still have time to add a meeting.
Yeah, that was my suggestion to him yesterday. I said, you need to get creative.
Right.
Well,
Special meeting
And
only require 24
they can
hours.
get creative, but the problem is that approval of the budget has to happen at a regular board meeting. So if they're going to add a board meeting, then they need to do a formal action that adds a regular board meeting to their calendar. And they can still utilize the telephonic call-in so long as they've got everything posted in the right places. But approval of the budget and the LCAP does have to happen at a regular board meeting.
That's a really good point. Thank you.
Michelle, always dropping that hammer.
She knows the law. That's the right thing to have called out. That's great.
I agree.
I'm here to help you help you. I am not here to drop any hammers at
I'm
all.
on your side. I know. I love it. I agree with you.
Well, I appreciate the timing of the meeting based on the phone call I got yesterday afternoon. So thank you guys for all the input.
All right. Are there any other questions? You can feel free to unmute and just ask your question. And if not, then we are going to prepare to go into breakout rooms where you can use the time to follow up on something that was covered earlier in the meeting, or ask questions about something that's been on your mind, or share information with colleagues, or get feedback on a situation that you're dealing with from colleagues. So
There's a Jamboard link. I think Teresa had a question about it, but there it is for
okay,
everybody in the
all
chat.
right, there you go. And if you are the facilitator of a breakout room, please be sure to grab the Jamboard, and you may want to ask someone to take notes for you while you facilitate, and you'll need to use those notes later to report out to the group. So, all right, Amy, I think since I don't see any questions, I think we're ready.
Okay, opening.
I think we're all back, and would love to hear from each group what you talked about. So let's start with, I guess, room 1.
I think that's us since we're room A. We had good conversations, kind of wide ranging. Started off with discussion of sort of the complaint process, what's the authoriser's role, and all sorts of different facets, ranging from, you know, the uniform complaint process through, you know, concerns about how records are handled on a school site and what's our role in addressing that. And then, you know, when public records requests come to us, what do we do with those? So we good conversation about how, as an authorizer, do we react to issues that are occurring at the sites, and what are our sort of duties and responsibilities there. Nice long conversation about renewals, handling those renewals that are coming to us and coming to us early, how to handle the flow of renewals, and working with our sites to schedule those in a way that's makes sense for staff, board members, and schools. Some good conversation around what do board members need to know now that renewals are resuming. And it's been a while since many, if not all, some of our board members have been through a renewal process. So trainings, supports, study sessions, anything that we can do as staff currently to prepare the boards for what's coming. I think we sort of know what we need, and the question is, do our boards know what they need? And how can we help them make informed decisions?
Great. Thanks for that. And that's funny that that is a topic that we were discussing right before we allowed everyone into the Zoom room. So I'm thinking there's more to come on that. Teresa, do you want to go next?
Sure. So we too thought a lot about renewals, as that's at the forefront of everybody's mind. And so we started talking about improvement plans and what those would look like, and are there templates or sample plans? And there was a suggestion that you could potentially use the LCAP as a part of the improvement plan, and ensuring that schools who need the improvement plan in order to be renewed for that 2 years are addressing all of the low performing areas, or the areas that are in red. So that was a suggestion. We also discussed verified data, and looking at verified data for what are considered low performing schools and those middle performing schools that choose to submit it, and what that looks like in terms of each of the companies that are on the approved list having a different classification of what is 1 year's improvement, and maybe having some type of documentation or a primer on that each year for the various companies. This is what is considered 1 year's worth of progress. We also discussed LCAPs and a hopefulness that CASI, CCAP, some of our bodies who have legislative influence will look to trying to get it so that authorizers actually have to approve LCAPs, because what we're getting year after year are sometimes the same poor LCAPs, even though those who are doing the authorizing work are providing feedback. We also discussed onboarding new charter leaders. And finally, we discussed a third-year charter school that was having financial issues, and what are the resources and how should it be addressed in terms of monitoring the school and making sure that they are serving students.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was very thorough. I noticed that there was some back and forth in the chat and a message from Kelly, Craig Arnold. She just dropped a link into a planned template that might be useful to share with charter schools who are looking for that 2-year renewal. So make sure you take a look at that. Dave, do you want to jump in? And also, Dave, could you add a few minutes on talking about the verified data sessions that CCAP provided?
Sure. Well, and anyone in our group, when I don't cover something, please jump. But we first started with a discussion about a charter school or more than one that may have exceeded their enrollment caps in their MOU and all that, especially through this extended, period of extensions on renewals, and some conversation about, the law has language about we're not to try to discourage enrollment growth by charters, but on the other hand, you have an MOU and you also have other stuff. So we didn't necessarily find that there's some single answer, but we did have a good discussion about it and the type of flexibilities that individual authorizers might have to respond. There was a comment that, as part of that, when that occurs, that part of it is a concern about fiscal, and Fresno Unified School District talked about how they made sure they do a fiscal impact of additional enrollment. We did have a significant conversation about a DASH, similar to the question Q&A that we talked about earlier in the presentation earlier today, and how to apply it. And there's there was some interesting back and forths there, and about when the information would come out, and the reality of if they're just applying for a DASH criteria, whether they get it the next day or not, you still need to do a renewal based on the history of what has occurred, so it's the performance over the period of time. So it was, DASH continues to have a lot of conversation, and that's why people should come to the upcoming session on July 9th, I believe, where we're going to go into it in depth. And then there was a question about summer school and use, and I'm not sure, ELAP, I'm not sure I've got the program name right for summer school, and required number of students, a low number of students being served. And one of our colleagues jumped in who had previous experience talking about they do an audit of participation and outreach and that sort of stuff, to ensure that the dollars are being appropriately spent. So there is some vehicle for evaluation and review of that. And then back to the question of verified data. First, there were some really good sessions at the CCAP conference about that. We have a number of, well, first I'll put out there, this is complicated stuff. It's really hard to do a one-page cheat sheet on it because you get lost in it pretty quickly. but we have done a series of webinars that are on in our resource library from each of the providers. The idea of needing to do more and the needing to do, since that's a moving target also, because those criteria could change, I think it's a very, very appropriate comment that we should be figuring out how we might best serve the authorizer community in this area going forward. My colleagues, anything I missed, anything you want to add that I didn't cover? Back to you.
Okay, great. So Matt, do you want to talk about what you just dropped into the chat? And you're on mute. Okay.
Yeah. No, I was just saying that. So in terms of like the closest we've come to summarizing those 1 year's growth, is I think we're doing a slow collection from each of these vendors because the list is, I think, like 13 or so long. And all I've seen published both by CSDC and through the vendors themselves are MAP, iReady, not Renaissance, FastBridge. But then Renaissance, Suzanne Cooey in her presentation at CCAP, and if you still have the access to the conference materials in their Google Drive, you can go back and find hers. I believe her presentation was called Ready for Renewal.
Those materials will stay up for 30 days, Matt. So thank you. Yes, they're available.
Yeah. So go find that slideshow, the Ready for Renewal, and she's got listed out in there all the different ranges on slide 41 for at least 3 of the vendors. Also in her folder, she's got the FastBridge cut points for 1 year's progress as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. And so I was with the non-authorizer partner group, and we spent all of our time talking about school board members and whether paying them would yield a better crop of committed members. Anybody in that group who wants to jump in and add on, if I leave out something, is welcome. So Zach came up with the idea of, if we paid them, would we get a more skilled, committed group of folks to be school board members who would be willing to, spend, for example, time at a 5-hour meeting or stay on the board longer to help, especially the small charter schools govern themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I'm going to say. So if there's anybody in the group who wants to share out more, feel free to come off mute and share with the group.
I'll just add that we bounced around a whole lot of ideas about the problem as opposed, and Zach's suggestion of, a stipend or some small amount of pay would be a good investment. But we also talked about, a functioning board is easier to fill. If you're having 5-hour board meetings, maybe there's some help that could be had there. We talked about external support in trying to recruit, just raising general community awareness about this opportunity to serve and to serve children. And that might come more effectively from, CCSA or CSDC or even the authorizer, and for that matter, that an authorizer can appoint a board member. There's some pros and cons to that. But if you have a small governing board that's really struggling with a particular skill set, and they might want to ask you, hey, authorizer, could you help us with that? So a variety of ways to get at trying to increase the pool of folks. And then just in general, the need for discussions about effective charter board governance and maybe an authorizer role in being present with governing boards to raise their awareness of what's going on. But I've also seen authorizers that, convene communities of practice with board chairs or have a training once a year for the governing boards that they authorize. And so there's a lot of ideas of getting at the challenge of governance at the school level.
Great. Thanks, Tom. All right. Next slide, please. And so I see that Michelle has dropped into the chat a meeting feedback survey. Michelle?
Yes, please go and fill it out. We listen to all of your feedback.
Okay, next slide. Dave?
Okay. I think this is a repeat of what I said before, but I'll do it. July 29th, next coming charter chat. And then we've also got our quarterly Dash School training on July 9th. Obviously, the level of interest is high. Please do so. And we put in the link, and we can put it in again, the registration for the July 9th activity.
Great. Thank you. Tom.
Yeah, we, in addition to, Dave mentioned this before, in addition to the regularly scheduled quarterly meetings, we are available to come on site locally to do a training that's can be more customized to whatever the particular needs are. We typically do it as an authorizing 101 or a fiscal 101, but it could be another topic. Or we can also sort of customize the authorizing 101 with needs that are particularly present in your community. Like we did one where, in Tulare County, where they said we really need to have a lot of discussion of dependent charters because that's mostly what we have here. So we kind of we brought that topic out more. Then we went to Kings County, and Kings and Fresno wanted us to make sure we didn't neglect the topic of charter districts because they are most of them are there. So we can tailor it to what your needs are. And if you have if you like the option of maybe pairing it with a training for charter schools or the aforementioned little board meeting, we could meet your needs. Right now we have funding through September. The grant runs out then, but let's talk one way or the other, because if you have some particular need locally and you think you might have more luck engaging people kind of on a local basis than by tapping them into CASI or CCAP at the statewide basis, we can help brainstorm with you on that.
Great. Next slide, Tom, you're still up.
Okay, well, for those who came to the conference, and if you left early, you may be still laboring under the erroneous dates that yours truly shared with everybody. The inside story is we got our wires crossed. I received the notice that, quote unquote, we got the week we want, which in my mind meant not the week of Juneteenth, but it actually was the week of Juneteenth. So on the slide here, two things. We are moving, it is actually the week of June 16th, but we decided to change up the way we've organized a little bit so that we avoid the holiday. We finish before the holiday, which falls on Thursday next year. So we will have a full day Monday, which will be the CASI pre-conference. We're going back to the full day. We had done it 2 half days on the feedback that would be easier, but we're going to rework the 101 a little bit to be more digestible with more sort of engagement. And in part, almost everybody, not everybody, almost everybody who comes to the pre-conference stays for the rest of the conference. And they found that in some of the sessions, they were hearing the same information because the conference presenters had to start at the beginning too. So maybe there's opportunities to free up some space and have it be more sort of hands-on and engaging. And that will make one day manageable. And we'll have 2 full days on Tuesday and Wednesday. And what we'll do, some people really do want to leave, earlier in the day on the last day. So we're going to conclude with our final plenary on Wednesday. And the afternoon, we've gotten feedback from people wanting more sort of hands-on collaborative opportunities as opposed to just training. And so Wednesday afternoon, the option will be a little bit deeper dives and hands-on if you want to do stuff collaboratively for the Wednesday afternoon. If you really need to get out of town, out of Palm Springs, Wednesday after the plenary, then that's okay. But we'll have a variety of things on offer for those of you who want to stay and do something with others. So that's the update for that. We'll be getting the word out every way we can, because we've also got to make sure people got the word that the dates are different than what was initially announced. So thanks very much for your help. We look forward to another great year.
Tom, is the CCAP golf tournament on that Sunday the 15th?
Yeah,
I'm gonna beat that down until it happens.
All right. Well, we'll have to get. Those of you who know CCAP know that we're kind of joined at the hip with SSDA, and of course they crush that. So we might have to get lessons from them if we were to try to pull off something like that. Because Dave and I don't know anything about golf.
Okay, next slide.
So I'd like to call out in the chat, Rick Reyes, our wonderful friend over at CDE, added that the State Board of Education has adopted publisher guidance for what counts as 1-year progress. And he put a link there for you so you can go and look for that long list of all of them for verified data.
Yep.
So thank you, Rick.
Yes, thanks, Rick. All right, so we're on our final page and managed to still be 1 minute over. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the June Charter Chat. If you need to contact us, you have our email on this slide. It is cassie@cde.ca.gov. Thanks, everyone.
And if
Thanks
you
all.
haven't responded to the survey, please fill out the survey.